Welcome to We Took a Series from the Yankees edition of Sharing Sox. I'm Southside Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son and West Coast correspondent Will, who is very fortunate to be West Coast correspondent because next week he can go to White Sox games without putting a penny in the pocket of Jerry Reinsdorf. Win-win.
That's true. That's true. Already got my tickets, and Jerry did not get a penny. Perfect. Perfect scenario. And then I'll do the same thing at the end of the month in Anaheim.
There you go.
I'm excited for the White Sox to come to town. One of the games I'm going with my entire softball team. And they all seem to be very excited that they're going to be able to make fun of me and razz me for the entire experience. But I'm not so sure because we're seeing a little bit of life from some of the White Sox. I actually am more encouraged than most, coming off the sweep of Detroit since the last time we met for the podcast,
It was a good week.
It was a good week of very close games that probably shouldn't have been as close as they were, which is the one thing that gives me pause. Especially the Detroit games; those were a little touch and go at times. But we got to see Liam Hendricks pick up a save or two. We got to see a couple wins in Yankee Stadium, which even as, sort of lackluster and as nail biting as they were, those are still wins in Yankee Stadium. And, we mentioned right before we started recording today, which is Friday, June 9th, that the Yankees were kind enough to not have Garrett Cole available, not have a couple other guys available. One guy, which I feel personally responsible for, was I was at the Yankees-Dodgers game when Aaron Judge went after that ball. And if you zoom in on the ESPN highlight, you can see me unlatch the door to the wall right before he goes flying through it. And he, the first thing, the catch was incredible. Incredible catch to have then a 6'8", 5,000-pound guy go barreling through your wall. But he got up immediately and he was like, I'm fine, go away. And I immediately turned to the guys with me and I was like, that's too bad because they're playing the White Sox next. So it would have been nice to see him get up and be hobbled just a little bit. And it turns out he was. So I take full responsibility for Aaron Judge not being active in this series as he is nursing a bad toe. I think was the final consensus there, injury-wise. But huge to take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, regardless of it looking like Mars and regardless of half of the team not being there. Wins are wins at this point when you're in the AL Central, which is looking
just
worse
hope for
and
a 75
worse.
win season and you'll take the division by 8 games.
I can just tell you there are going to be some furious AL East and AL West teams at the end of this season.
Oh yeah. And
Oh
justifiably so. Absolutely justifiably so.
Yeah.
This is a joke, and baseball's got to do something about it because I don't think it's going to be fixed anytime soon.
What are you going to do about it, though? Are you just going to do what the NBA is doing, essentially, and just ignore the division structure? I mean, I'm not married to any of this. I'm not coming at this as like it has to be.
I think where I wrote a piece that was up a couple of days ago, but which was a joke because nothing's going to happen with it. But
right.
One thing is, if you get expansion in the next few years, then you are going to realign, and you've got to make some sense out of that realignment instead of having it basically the way it is now. If you don't get that, and I really think you have to do something about the structure. All you have to do actually is put in a rule that says it'll be the 3 division winners and the next 3 best records, with the exception that no team with a record of 500 or less can be in the playoffs.
But then what do you do if you have a bunch of teams that win 110 games and then you end up without enough playoff teams?
Well, again, you put in a clause that says that as long as 6 teams are available, that kind of thing. I mean, there are easy ways to word this, but you've got to make it so that
I like that
whoever
idea.
wins this, I mean, this is the worst division in the history of baseball, maybe of major professional sports in the U.S., and it's not going to get better. Somebody's record will probably go over
I
500, but
mean,
it's
there
not getting
are.
better.
I think the AFC South or the NFC South has some arguments at times, but yeah, this is a joke of a division, and it doesn't seem like it's going to become less of a joke. It actually feels like it's becoming more of a joke of a division as we move on. The Twins have gone from somewhat successful to completely ice cold. Uh,
On that front, let me interrupt on that one. We're recording this on Friday after the Yankees series, uh, and I was listening to the score as I tend to do when I go grocery shopping on Friday mornings, and they were asking, why hasn't Rocco Baldelli been fired? And I've asked this in the past. I've watched Twins games not just this year but other years, where you go, what the hell did he just do? And I'm rooting for the other team. I'm going, that's the stupidest thing I ever saw. And he does that over. It's not quite Tony La Russa, but boy, it's damn close.
well,
He's
with
a
La
terrible
Russa,
manager.
with La Russa, it was interesting because the man was falling apart essentially, whereas Baldelli is should be quite with it at this point of his life. He's not very old; he's a pretty young guy, and I don't understand their seeming marriage to Rocco Baldelli. There, he is
It's like
really pretty.
Reinsdorf's with Rick Hahn.
Yeah, it really is. And for a team that in this era of a central division that is so terrible has realistically been terrible for a few years and realistically is going to keep being terrible moving forward for a few years. It's very strange to hold on to the manager when you are the team that is supposed to be at the top of the terrible. It's easy to say that the Twins are on paper the team that should be comfortably winning the AL Central. And that is usually when you get into real hot water with your manager job security, is when you are the team that is expected to be better.
Like
Even
like
if
a
you,
certain team whose hats we are wearing last year.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that was the saving thing that helped us get rid of La Russa, was the fact that we were supposed to be better that whole time, and we were way worse than we were supposed to be. But the Twins are also a lot worse than they're supposed to be. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the
and
original
and this isn't the first
projections.
time.
No,
This is not the first
last
time.
year.
They totally collapsed year before last.
Oh yeah, that was
They've
where
had
they had a
they've
huge
had
lead.
much bigger overall injury problems than the White Sox, much as we moan. But still, you know what they're going to be. I mean, Buxton's going to be out because Buxton's going to be out. It's like our guys who are always out. Speaking of which, Aloy limped off last night.
Yep.
I looked just before we started to record, and they've not said anything at all whether he's going to be out for a little while. It didn't look like he was crippled or anything, but these
Well,
things can't stretch out.
I will say his injury. I don't know. I okay, so I'm a professional actor. I definitely am pretty good at seeing when people are acting and when they're not. I think someone didn't hustle out a ground ball and was covering a little bit, because we're seeing that theme across Major League Baseball of guys not hustling and getting benched as they should. And I don't know. He came out of the box pretty strong. He was very strong through his stride up until the very end, when I think he caught a glimpse that he should have been running harder than he was, and then all of a sudden he was hurt. I don't know. I saw a little bit of it from Moncada yesterday. Moncada physically looked horrible yesterday. He looked hurt anytime he was running, whether he was
Fortunately, he
fielding
didn't have
or.
to when he hit a home.
Exactly. I mean, but wow, he just seemed to be coming up a little short on everything. So I hope he's okay. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but hopefully Eloy's injury isn't too bad. But it really looked a little bit of like, that thing when I do and everyone does who plays baseball, where you make an error and the whole time you're just looking at your glove like, man, this thing really just blew it on that play. This thing really let me down. I had that thing But this little string sticking off right here, I think that's what did it. That's why it went through my legs. I got kind of those vibes from Eloy's injury yesterday. And I
I
felt
hope
like,
that's what it is.
I
I
hope
mean,
so too, but I'll also be kind of mad because I'm not seeing necessarily the kind of hustle. Also, I will just say, watching Eloy play right field this week, I think he's actually a lot worse at fielding than any of us really ever thought. He is just
he misplayed some
every single
severely.
ball. I mean,
Yeah.
almost every single ball hit to him was misplayed, was a bad route, bad jump, no clue how to play it off a wall. He cannot be a right fielder. It is just insane that you would have him play right field in Major League Baseball.
Of
Can't
course,
can't
your
catch,
alternative
can't catch,
is
can't throw.
about 2% better, and that's Sheets.
I know, and this is coming from, I am saying these words as a guy who knows what the alternative is. And I mean, Sheets is absolutely terrible out there, but Eloy is as lost as you can be. He just has no business playing right field. I don't even like him in left, but he certainly can't play right. I mean, well, I don't know if you got to start putting Sheets out there on a daily basis. If Eloy's hurt, maybe we'll see some changes. Um, our miracle guys who had come in and been playing sort of miraculously well. We had seen some good stuff out of Hazley and some
Well,
weirdly good
Frazier's good.
stuff out of Clint Frazier, which has all gone away on the offensive side, completely regressed essentially. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but we just do not have three outfielders on this team.
That both hit and field. No, it does not exist. Yes, it's a sad thing. Speaking, I've got one thing I want to bring up about this past week. And again, great week, 5 out of 6 wins, including 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. What is the thing? Because we need to look forward, but what is the thing? Because it happened twice this week, and we happened to win one of the games. That over and over and over, the White Sox cannot hit a guy who just got brought up from the minors with a 7.5 ERA at AAA. What is the deal? And I can't even remember the names, but the Detroit guy no hit him for 5 innings,
I
and then
know.
the Yankee guy two hit him for 5 innings and change. And it's not like, oh, well, these two weird situations happened. It's been years like that. And we've often, not us particularly, but in general, Sox fans talk, well, they don't prepare enough. Well, maybe they only get as far as they do because they prepare really well, but you can't prepare for the guy you've never seen and nobody else has ever seen unless you have really good scouting. And I understand Jerry's cut down on the scouting staff quite a bit.
Well,
I don't
then
know the
then
truth of
there's
that,
your
but I've
answer.
heard that that's true.
But this isn't an era where you need someone to necessarily go to Tulsa to see the pitcher pitch.
But you need the
E-
video.
everything's recorded from many, many angles, which makes me lean more towards just total lack of preparation. There's no reason at this point, when you are facing a guy who's made it all the way up to the majors, there's no reason you wouldn't have hours and hours and hours and hours of footage of them pitching, especially, it's just true because everybody's going through the minor leagues. Every minor league game is filmed. Once you get to the higher levels, they're filmed very in depth because a lot of teams are using them for scouting. I don't know. I don't know how these guys come up with these 7.5 AAA ERAs and do this. But it certainly makes me feel like it is a total lack of preparation. A total lack of preparation, which is in line with the White Sox mentality and the mentality that comes from the higher ups, the trickle down laziness, as you see from the White Sox. You would think that Pedro Grifol would be a little more on it in this circumstance. The hitting coach would be a little more on it. But I don't know, because these guys who've been doing this also have not shown me anything that says, wow, we shouldn't be hitting this guy. This is different. This is special. This guy's having a day. It's been good. It's been good pitching. But it hasn't been guys who should be shutting down a major league lineup. And that's what's been happening. So As I do with most things with the White Sox, I'm chalking it up to laziness. Utter, 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 utter laziness. But we should take our break there. We will come back and let's look at what's ahead of us, including a matchup with a surprisingly decent Marlins team coming to Chicago starting today at 7:10. So we will be right back. Hang in there. It's Sharing Sox. Welcome back to Sharing Sox. First half we covered this past week, which we squeaked by with a lot of juicy little wins, including our delightful sweep of the Tigers. Moving forward, though, we're about to host the Miami Marlins, who are in second place in the NL East.
Which is a pretty damn good division.
Yes, I mean there has been some disappointments and some injuries there. So the Mets are certainly underachieving. They're on a 6-game losing streak, but the Marlins are on a 6-game winning streak, sitting at 35-28. Run differential is in the negatives, a little bit better than us, but not a lot better than us. What do you think? What do you think about this upcoming series?
Well, it's going to be interesting. The first game is, if I say it right, Eury Perez for the Marlins.
That could be correct. I'm not sure.
He's a rookie phenom. He's a 2.25 ERA. He is blowing people away, and he's going against Dylan Cease, who has not been blowing anybody away. So,
sure has not.
That will be interesting. Second game, Sandy Alcantara, historically a very good pitcher. This year, a very bad pitcher who just gave up 5 runs to Oakland in 7 innings. And
at least he threw 7 innings, but yeah.
Yeah, he goes up against Michael Kopech. And then Giolito, who has been terrific, will be pitching on Sunday against Braxton Garrett. And the Sox better not lose that. Garrett is a lefty with an ERA of 4.5. That's Sox meat. That's main course and dessert all rolled into. I shouldn't say it because God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm like, oh great, here comes a no hitter from a left-handed guy.
He just gave up 4 runs in 5 innings to the Royals. So,
I mean, you speak of these teams like we are so much higher than them in our offensive output.
I will say one thing that I hope happens for a guy on the other team, on the good sense, rather than the Sox. I hope that in this weekend series, Luis Arráez goes 10 for 12, gets erased in a double play every single time he gets on. But I hope he leaves town hitting 425. I mean, the kid is amazing. And it would be wonderful to see how long he can keep up the 400 or above range.
It's June 9th. He's hitting 403 on June 9th. Holy cow. I think your next highest batting averages are 340 range, which tends to be where we are with our highest batting averages at this point as they all start to sort of settle in and get down towards the place that they'll land around 320 these days tends to be your higher end. And he is at 403. And what's crazy to me is he had dropped down to around 370 just a couple weeks ago, and now he's back up over 400, which just tells you that this is not going away anytime soon. We have our first guy since Ichiro, I think, who could actually hit 400 in a season.
I don't think that's realistic, but I think I loved even when he was with the Twins, and we're never supposed to think anything good of anybody on the Twins. But he was fun to watch back.
Of course.
And because you mentioned Ichiro, to watch Ichiro bat was to watch like the peak of the profession, the very best way anybody could go about it at bat. The man was just incredible. And Arráez, he's not Ichiro. He hasn't been around that long, but he seems to have a plan for everything that's going on. Every kind of pitch, this is what I'm going to do. He's set for whatever. He apparently is reading the pitchers extremely well. He's reading spin well, whatever it may be. He's ready for what's coming. But he's fun to watch because he's just so adept and so totally locked into what's going on.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest things about Luis Arráez, for me, because as a White Sox fan, we saw him constantly running the bases for the
Yes.
Twins. Luis Arráez is only 26. Isn't that insane? We have been watching this guy hit over 300 and in some cases over 330 at the major league level for years. And he's only 26 years old. Luis Arraez is hitting 403 and he has not entered his prime in terms of professional athletes. He is heading into his prime. I am just like, it just blows my mind the skill level this guy has, especially when you break down the science of hitting and how you have less than half the time of one blink of the eye to see the ball, pick up the pitch, pick up the spin, pick your location, whether or not you're going to swing, then execute a perfect swing to put the ball in play. You have less than half a blink of an eye for that moment. And Luis Arraez is doing it successfully 4 out of 10 times. It's unbelievable. And the way he plays, I think there's a good chance we see Luis Arraez for 12 more years. Like, he is just building an unbelievable career. I agree with you. I hope that this weekend we see Luis Arraez and only Luis Arraez on base constantly. I would love to see him put up a 10 for 12, something like that, as long as he never scores. I don't know how the series is going to go. Dylan Cease has been borderline unwatchable. He's so bad right now and so inefficient that he's not fun to watch. Giolito was absolutely incredible to watch the last couple times out. Giolito is looking like the Giolito we've seen before, and we're always hoping to see again. Good for him. I'm really excited about that. Kopech, still a little back and forth, but when he's on, holy cow!
Yeah, when he's on, he's completely unhittable.
When his confidence is up and when he's got the spin working on that slider, he is a video game the way the ball is moving. I mean, he is just extraordinary. So that's where kind of my positivity about the White Sox moving forward this year is coming from. I'm really excited to see Giolito figuring it out. Really excited to see Kopech figuring it out. The thing that's killing us right now, Cease is a shell of what he was. I don't know if it's because he has to work faster now. A lot of the guys early on, when they said who's going to struggle the most with having to go faster, a lot of his teammates said it was going to be Cease. The others said it was Matt Foster, not around. And Cease is showing that he is not nearly at his command is gone working in a slower way thus far. So he needs to figure it out. He needs to turn it around. Lance Lynn, I think, is at this point a 5-starter that you just kind of hope he gets through his outing.
He's fried. I think Lance is fried. I have no hope that he won some games in March. I mean, in April. No, in May. We'll find a month I know about. He won several games in a row in May, but they were all against teams from, guess where? The Triple AL Central.
Yeah.
When he pitches against anybody else, he gets clobbered. He's just fried. And
he's
then
he's got nothing.
He mentioned is not pitching well. That the Dodgers series, we'll get to the games you get to see next week after Miami's day off, which is nice, and then 3 in LA at Dodger Stadium. First time is going to be Lynn against Tony Gonsolin. That's dire.
Yeah.
Next game will be starter number 5 versus Clayton Kershaw. And yes, we like to pick on lefties, but not that lefty.
I'll be there for that game, and I can tell you that's not going to go well for the White Sox.
And then the next one we get back around, and it will be Cease again, taking on some guy. Well, I even forget what his name is. that's shameful. But who is not good. Who's running an ERA 5-ish. Um, and has not pitched much. He's been in 4 or 5 starts, which is the bad thing for the White Sox, I guess.
Yeah, is
Uh,
that Michael Grove?
yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that's who I saw pitch against the Yankees on Saturday, and he got slapped around quite a bit. He actually put together some solid innings, but he's kind of a good matchup for Cease, and that who knows what both of them are going to do on any given day at this point. Voldemort, or he who should not be named, sitting at a 4.19 ERA at this point, WHIP around 1.4. I believe I predicted him to be around 4.5 heading into the summer, and ending up around 5.5 by the end of the summer. And I think he's certainly on pace and showing signs that I will be a genius, which I always am. Lance Lynn's ERA is up to 6.72. Whoo boy. And Giolito is coming back down to planet Earth, which is lovely to see at 3.75. The biggest perks or pleasantries we've seen pitching wise is Keenan Middleton still sitting at a 1.3 ERA. Gregory Santos sitting right at 2. Joe Kelly has shown signs of being a really good pitcher. The bullpen as a whole has
speaking of the bullpen, Liam, after a little shakiness the first couple times out, because we just have this thing of bringing people back too early, seems to have settled in now to being his old self. His strength is back. His movement's back. He's got control of the slider, which was a big deal, which he didn't have early. His fastball was fine, but his slider was all over the map. Now he's got control of that. The big one was last night, Thursday night, Garrett Crochet, because he was pretty terrible the first few times out. Again, bringing him back too early instead of letting him work things out in Charlotte. Coming back from Tommy John, he was pretty darn sharp. Because those first times out, it wasn't that he didn't have velocity; it was that he had no idea where the ball was going. And now he seemed to have a pretty good idea last night. I hope that's not a one-off, and that he's getting back into where his rhythm is right, his motion's right, his release is right, and all those good things. And I know you've said very bad things about Ethan Katz in recent weeks. I have not. I'm still a Katz lover.
Okay, all right.
For a while.
Yeah, Crochet. That was a great thing to see. Coming off of his previous 4 appearances, he had either given up at least a walk and a hit, most times more than 2 walks in a single inning, and in some cases more than 3 hits in a single inning. Yesterday, no hits, no walks in his inning. What a great sign. I would love to see Crochet come back strong. Seems like a nice kid and has a ton of potential. Those injuries are brutal. I hope he's overcoming it, because if he gets good, I mean, the bullpen has been showing us that
that's completely reversed. They've gone from the worst in the major leagues, except for Oakland, to one of the best in the last few weeks.
The bullpen's here. The bullpen is here to play.
Bummer's started to look good.
Bummer's been looking good. Kelly's been looking good. I think Keenan Middleton and the return of Liam Hendriks, I think they're fired up out there. You've got a couple guys out in that bullpen who just get jazzed up when they're playing baseball. And I think that goes a long way. And I think when you have guys like Middleton and guys like Hendriks who get so amped, I think guys like Joe Kelly really buy into that energy. I think even a guy like Aaron Bummer buys into that energy. So you're seeing a lot of our relievers go out there and they are just ready to rock, which is so different from the beginning of the season when you would watch games and these deer in headlights essentially were coming out to the mound when the starters would leave after throwing 125 pitches in 2 innings. It's exciting right now because our starter efficiency is still absolutely abysmal and pathetic and terrifying. So when you are seeing these guys get to 90 pitches in 3 innings, it's nice to be at this point now where you're like, all right, bring in Middleton, bring in Santos, bring in Bummer, bring in Crochet, bring in Graveman, bring in Hendricks. I mean, that's a scary group of dudes right now. The bullpen has been the absolute highlight of this run. They don't win a single one of these games from this winning streak without the bullpen being as good as they've been over the last week and a half. They don't win a single one. These were mostly one-run games, very close. A lot of games were handed to us in various ways. If the bullpen was not what they are, we are 13 games under 500 right now for sure. Bullpen is keeping the White Sox alive. I'm loving it. I'm loving watching these guys come out and mow them down and just get so freaking pumped. I hope that it starts to translate more towards the day-to-day position players because they're still looking a little sleepy out there. The walk-offs help, but they're still looking kind of sleepy out there. We need that energy to come through. But that is about all the time we have for today. Do you have any final thoughts before we head into our series with the Marlins?
No, I hope it goes swimmingly, and and that you get to see some good games where the crowd, other than you, is very disappointed.
Yes, I am looking forward to it. We will probably come back to you next week after that series, just because I will be doing my local reporting duty. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm really pumped to have the White Sox in town. Going to have a couple other guys, I think, from Southside Sox come out to the games as well, which will be really cool. And, it's always nice to see my boys in black out in California. And then I'll probably head down at the end of June to see Shohei, do some work with them as well. But thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time on Sharing Sox.